and you can literally do what you want. It's so much cheaper. One of the most expensive places for accommodation. My first big mistake. Our next destination was Paris. This cost $902. It was so cool to see. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining. I just thought I'd do a little get ready with me video and talk to you guys about my Euro summer trip that I did last year. I just want to give you guys any information that I can if you are thinking of doing a Euro summer trip or just want information or advice just to make the most of it or to avoid any mistakes. So I am going to talk you through my experience, where I went, my budget, my mistakes, my top tips, things I would do differently, kind of cover everything just to give you as much information as I can to help you if you are wanting to do that in the future. So I'm just gonna get ready on this side. I tried to do overnight curls, but that one's cute, and then this side is just a little, didn't really go to plan, but that's okay. I've already put on sunscreen, done all my skincare and stuff, so we're just gonna get straight into the makeup. So I just want to preface this part by saying that there are a few things that really helped me to save money on this trip. For example, my sister lives in London, so that means that we got free accommodation in London, or we didn't have to, you know, we just stayed with her. So that saved lots of money. Otherwise I would not have been able to stay as long as I did in London. And just to preface as well, I booked all of my accommodation on either booking.com, Expedia, and there was one place that I booked on Airbnb, which I'll go through. All of my internal flights within Europe was booked on either Expedia or booking.com. I just found that those were the cheapest places to book, and I did thorough research trying to get the cheapest possible thing. So that's what I found. It might be different if you're from, you know, the US or somewhere else, but if you're from like Australia and New Zealand, that will probably be the cheapest, because that's what I found, because I was determined to save as much money as possible. So my Euro summer trip happened last year, so 2025. Mine was quite long. I went from Bali on the 12th of June. I flew into London, and then I came home to New Zealand on the 29th of August. So I was in Europe for about 11 weeks total, or about just over 2.5 months. I've been forgetting to get ready, so I'll do that. I'm actually not sure on the exact amount that I spent over the total time, because I did have money coming in and out for different reasons, so it was hard to kind of keep track. But I think I probably spent in total probably about between 12 to 15,000 NZ dollars, which I think is really good for the amount of time that I was there. I was there for ages. My trip was a whole mixed bag in terms of who I spent it with. There were places and times where I was by myself. There was times where my sister was with me. There was times where it was just me and my boyfriend and his friends, and then me and my girlfriends as well. So it was kind of, I got to spend time with so many different people, which was amazing, and it was so nice to actually do that. I would highly recommend that if you can do that, especially if you're the type of person who likes being by themselves like I do. Then definitely try and have some time by yourself, because it is so nice. It sounds scary, but it's so nice. And you can literally do what you want. I'll basically just go through my time, what I did, where I went, how much I spent on accommodation, travel, things like that. So the countries I went to England, Spain, Portugal, France, Monaco, which is a country. I didn't know that before I went, but Monaco is its own country. Italy, the Netherlands. Yeah, that's it. I did want to do Greece and Croatia, that side of Europe. That's still on my list, but I just thought it was getting a little bit too cramped, and I'll do the rest later, hopefully. The best advice that I can give is to book in advance if you can. I started researching in October, November time, and I was booking stuff like January, February. I had most of my accommodation booked by then. This will not only give you more options, stuff does sell out like in popular places, like you'll have so many more choices if you book in advance, but also it's so much cheaper if you book in advance. It is so worth it you will save so much money if you just book everything in advance. So I highly recommend to look into it and start booking as soon as you can. If you think that you are gonna need to change your plans, you can book places with free cancellation. A lot of places do actually offer that, which is great because sometimes your plans will change unexpectedly, so it's always good to just have that safety net. Even if you think you're 100% sure on your plans, I think it's good. It's like insurance basically. Okay, so I flew to London on the 12th of June. If you were to book that same flight for the same date this year now, so in January, it would cost you return from New Zealand $2,230. That is the cheapest flight that I found on Expedia. I think that's okay. That's kind of like standard what you're gonna pay. It can get a lot more expensive than that, so keep that in mind. That's return. It'll probably be cheaper from Australia, cheaper from the US. I'm not really sure. New Zealand is just far away from everything, so it's so expensive. So I went to London on the 12th of June. As I said before, my sister lives in London, so we just went straight to her house, and she was very kind enough to let us stay for free for like as long as we wanted. I think London is one of the most expensive places for accommodation, so if you have someone that you know in London, it is so worth seeing if you can stay with them, especially because of the exchange rate at the moment for New Zealand. It is absolutely terrible. You get nothing for your money. It's crazy, but there's stuff you can do for cheap as well. Museums in London are amazing. We met up with friends in London, so we went out one night. We went to Brighton for the day, which was so cool. I've never been to Brighton before. My favorite thing to do in London is to go and just eat lunch in Hyde Park. It is so peaceful. The parks in London are unlike no other. We don't really have many parks in New Zealand, so whenever I'm over there I love to go and just enjoy the parks there. So on the 26th of June, I then flew by myself to Madrid. This cost me $239. I did book it last minute, so it would have been a lot cheaper if I booked it around the same time as I booked everything else. I booked that flight on the 5th of May. I stayed there for 2 nights. Because this was a last minute plan, I wanted to do it quite cheap, so I booked a hostel, but it was like the little pods that you sleep in, like the little capsule pods. Personally, I probably wouldn't stay in a hostel just because of who I am and my personality. Unfortunately, I wish I was more outgoing, but I'm just not, and that is not something I think I would enjoy. So if you would stay in hostels, you can also save a lot more money as well, but I just was willing to spend the extra money to stay in hotels or other accommodations. But for this one, I thought, you know what, let's go out of the comfort zone a little bit. This one was really cool. It was called the Art Sevens Hotel or something. I'll put a picture up there. There we go. That cost $177 for 2 nights. Madrid was really cool. Went and saw the palace that they've got there, just explored, and it was really beautiful, so I'm glad I went down. I also went to a flamenco show, which was really cool. It cost me about, I think about $80 $70, but it was so cool to see, so I highly recommend doing something like that as well. When I was by myself in Europe, I didn't really go out to eat much. I'm not really bothered about that. I'd rather spend my money on other stuff, especially because in Europe going out to eat was quite expensive, so I just got food from supermarkets and kind of had more ready meals, which was absolutely fine for me. I think that saved me a lot of money as well. And then I went down to Seville for another 2 nights by myself. I took the train down to Seville, which was about 27 euros. That's about $50 NZ dollars. I booked all of my trains on either Omeo or Trainline. Those are the best train platforms for Europe. And then any longer bus trips that I wanted to book, I just booked on Flixbus. I would always compare the two, train or buses, to see which was better, because sometimes you would expect the train to be better, but then the train was actually longer and more expensive. So sometimes I did do a bus trip. between places, which was absolutely fine. And I stayed in a similar place in Seville. This is it right here. I think it was cool. I enjoyed it, but I probably wouldn't do it again, just because like I just prefer to have my own space in a hotel room. That's just me. This one cost $136 for 2 nights, so I think Seville was a little bit cheaper, but this is where I encountered my first big mistake, and probably my biggest one actually. But I also think it was actually a good lesson to learn, because at this point I was so anxious about my money. I was so scared every time I spent something. So now being tasked with spending all my money that I'd spent years saving up for was a little bit daunting to me. I was having a tough time with letting it go. So my first mistake came when I arrived in Seville. I stepped off the train and I received a message from the accommodation that I stayed at in Madrid, and they said, "Zara, you have left your card holder here." This little thing, I left it in Madrid. I was like, oh shit. So I spent that night trying to figure out how to get it back, and I ended up having to go back to Madrid. I had to spend an extra about $150 rebooking buses and trains to go back to Madrid before I went to Lisbon, which was the next stop on my list. That was a stressful moment. So first lesson of Europe is to always check your hotel rooms thoroughly before you leave, even if you think that you have got everything. And then I was like, you know what, this stuff is gonna happen. I just need to chill out a little bit more and be okay with spending my money. So we got it sorted. Yeah, so I had to leave Seville early, but it was 42 degrees, so it was not the worst thing in the world, because it was just unbelievably hot to the point where you couldn't go outside for an extended period of time. Seville was beautiful, but I would definitely check the temperature of where you're going before you go, because I literally could not. I kept having to go back to the hotel and cool down before I went out again, because it was just too hot outside. Even consider going in the shoulder months. That way it would be cheaper, cooler and quieter. So I definitely consider that next time, to be honest. But anyway, I enjoyed Seville. Seville was so beautiful. Then I went back up to Madrid, got my card holder and took the bus to Lisbon. I think the important thing to remember as well is that things will go wrong on a Euro trip. It is kind of inevitable that things will go wrong, so just be prepared and be gentle and kind to yourself when that happens. Try not to stress out too much. So I was in Seville from the 28th of June to the 30th. And then I was in Lisbon by myself from the 30th to the 3rd of July, so that was 3 nights. I stayed in like a little room, a little guest house, like self check-in, everything like that, which was lovely. That cost $403 for 3 nights in Lisbon. I went to Cascais, just explored around. Again, I didn't really go out in Lisbon to eat or anything. I just went to markets and stuff, which was absolutely fine with me, and I really enjoyed that, and I think I saved a lot of money there as well. So then I took the bus down to Lagos. So this was booked through Flixbus, and this was 27 euros, which is about $50 again. And in Lagos was Ethan, my boyfriend, and some of our friends, so we met up with them. Me and Ethan stayed in like it was more of a boutique-y hotel, so it was a little bit more expensive. From the 3rd to the 6th of July, so 3 nights, and it was $718 for the both of us. And this is probably one of the nicer places that we stayed. It had a pool, which was really nice after having 42-degree weather for like 4 days with no swimming. So we chilled out here. Yeah, just spent time with our friends. That was really nice. And then me and Ethan by ourselves went to Faro. We just took the train. It was like €5. It was great. And then stayed there for another 3 nights. That cost $399 for the 2 of us. In Faro we didn't really do anything, we just explored. We went to the Deserta Island, which you can catch a ferry to, and it has literally one person living on there and one person who's allowed to live on there. You might have seen it on TikTok or Instagram or something. That was beautiful, like so beautiful. After that I flew back to London by myself. Ethan went to Mongolia. He was having a different type of Eurosummer, and I flew back to London to meet my sister because our next destination was Paris. The flight back to London was pretty cheap. It was $123. So I stayed 2 nights in London. So on the 11th we took a Eurostar to Paris. We had it booked for 6 a.m. Now I thought this was a great idea because it was the cheapest by far. It was £58 each. However, we missed the train. This cost us an extra £40 to rebook each. So it would have been cheaper to just book the later train. So do keep this in mind. Either make sure you are early to all of your trains and buses. That's one of the most important lessons that I learned. Or when you are booking things and you see that ridiculously early flight or train versus the nice time train or flight, and there's like a $20 difference, just book the later one. Your future self will thank you for it. And if you miss the first one, then it's going to be more expensive to rebook it anyway. We were in Paris from the 11th to the 14th of July, and our accommodation was $711, so $355 each. I thought that was great. I booked kind of the nicest but cheapest hotel, if that makes sense. I'll put the hotel up here. It was really nice. It was just a lot of stairs, but I think there's a lot of stairs in every single Paris hotel just because of the buildings there. So in Paris we went to Disney, we saw all the sights. Paris was one of my absolute favorite places. It was so cool. It was just everything you would hope it to be. Is yeah, so cool. I loved it so much. So I was with Soph in Paris, and then I went down to Nice by myself after that. So during this time Sophie was joining me on some places. She was joining me in Paris, Nice, Rome and Amalfi Coast, but she kept having to go home back to London just because she had work and she had a limited amount of annual leave that she took. Flights are so cheap within Europe. I think it cost her like £20 to fly back home, so she was just like, I'll just go home, just work what I need to work, and then I can come join you again. So that's what she did. I went to Nice by myself. I stayed there from the 14th to the 22nd, so for 8 nights. She joined me like 2 days after I got there, and that was the longest that we stayed in one place. We wanted to do a lot of day trips from Nice. You can do so many trips from Nice. We went to Menton, Monaco, Cannes, Antibes, so that's why we spent a long time there. For 8 nights our accommodation cost €818, which is about $1,660 between 2 of us, minus a few nights for Sophie. And we had like a whole apartment to ourselves. I'll put it in here as well. In Nice we did an open car tour, which was amazing. I think this cost about $150. Highly recommend. I'll put it here as well. One thing I would do more of if I could go back is to spend more money on like experiences, like tours, fun stuff. Like the best memories that we had from Europe were days where we had like the open car tour, or we did a boat tour in Amalfi. Like those were the days that were just some of the best days of our lives. So highly recommend spending more money on experiences rather than just like shopping and things like that. Obviously spend your Europe trip however you want to spend it, but that's just what I took from it. Yep, so we were in Nice for 8 nights. We did day trips. There's a huge train station in Nice. We were in walking distance luckily, so we just walked up to the train station. You can book your trains online on Trainline, or you can just book them at the station. We just always booked beforehand just because it's easier and we could see what the times were. There's a whole train line that goes to every single one of those places that we went on a trip to. It was so easy, so highly recommend doing that as well. And then from Nice, Sophie went back to London and I went to Florence. I took the bus by myself to Florence. It cost about €35. I stayed by myself in Florence for 2 nights, which cost $399. I stayed in a bed and breakfast, so it included free breakfast, which is great. Florence really surprised me. I loved Florence. I was kind of just going there as like a little pit stop because I mostly wanted to stay in the Tuscan countryside, and Florence is in Tuscany, like it's a city in Tuscany. so I just stayed there for convenience, but really surprised me and impressed me. So I definitely want to go back there, and definitely recommend going if you are going to Italy. It's so beautiful. I had the best spaghetti carbonara I've ever had in my life there, which we'll get to later. I then from Florence caught a local bus down to first and only Airbnb that I booked for this trip. This one I was most excited for because I've wanted to do this since I was like 15. I've always wanted to go to the countryside in Tuscany and just stay on like a farm by myself and just relax pretty much. So that's what I did. This is what it looked like. Yeah, amazing. So amazing. I would definitely go back. I'd do it longer, and I'd also get a car if I was doing Tuscany again, but I loved my time just doing absolutely nothing. I was just swimming, reading, fully relaxing, and it healed my soul. So I just took one of the local buses down to my Airbnb because it actually wasn't too far away from Florence city centre. It was about half an hour. I was by myself, so I kind of just wanted to stay somewhere a little bit close but still got the countryside vibe, you know what I mean? And my host actually picked me up from the bus stop, which was so lovely. So I stayed there for 4 nights from the 24th to the 28th of July. This cost $902. This was the most expensive place for me because I didn't split it with anyone, but it was the place that I was most excited for, so I was absolutely willing to spend a bit more money just to really get somewhere that I was really excited to stay, and it was so beautiful. Even during that time I would just go to the local town and just walk and just get stuff from the supermarket for dinner, so I didn't spend a lot of money during that time, which is good. Then I took the local bus back up to Florence and then caught the train to Rome for 25 euros. I stayed in Rome from the 28th to the 1st of August. Sophie joined me in Rome from the 29th, so she was there 3 nights, I was there 4 nights. Our Rome accommodation cost about $1,000 total. Rome was also one of my favorite places, just so cool. So I highly recommend going to Rome. It is amazing, especially if you're like a history lover like me. So much to see, so much to do. Then Sophie had to go back home to go to a Sabrina Carpenter concert. Priorities, I know. So then I went and took the train down to Naples just for 2 nights. There wasn't really too much that I wanted to do there. I just kind of wanted to explore and see. The train down there was 14 euros, which is so cheap. So I was in Naples from the 1st to the 3rd of August. I stayed at a hotel and had free breakfast, and this cost me $337 for the 2 nights. And after Sophie went to her Sabrina Carpenter concert, she flew into Naples airport on the 3rd of August. I went and met her, and then we actually went straight to Pompeii, which is kind of in between Naples and Amalfi, so we decided to just go straight to Pompeii. That was amazing. It was a lot quieter than I thought, even though we went on the day where it was free, but we literally walked straight in. It was great, so I highly recommend going there. And then we trained and bused to Amalfi. Now listen, the transport to Amalfi and in Amalfi, terrible. Absolutely terrible. To get from Pompeii to our hotel, it took us 4 or 5 hours. I did extensive research on transport there and the best way to get there and back. So what we did is we took a train from Pompeii to Sorrento, and then we took a bus from Sorrento to our hotel that we were staying at. Don't rely on the buses in Amalfi. The bus route showed that it was going to go past our hotel. Now our hotel was up in the hills. It did not. It was only going along the coast. I don't know why the website told me something completely different. I literally researched for hours beforehand, so I was like, okay, yep, sorted. We had to walk literally from the bottom all the way to the top. It took us about an hour. We had suitcases. There were stairs. I think this picture sums it up quite nicely. We were sweaty. By the time we got there, it was dark. So lesson learned with that one. Honestly, get like a private transfer or something. It's so worth it. It's expensive. Oh my god. It was awful. It was pretty bad. But anyway, we got there. We went to sleep. We were in Amalfi from the 3rd to the 8th of August, so 5 nights, which I think was a great amount of time. We chose to stay in a little town in between Amalfi and Positano, which was a lot cheaper than staying in either Amalfi or Positano, because the prices there can just get insane. Accommodation for 5 nights total, it was $1,446 for the 2 of us, so that's about $723 each. We did a small group day cruise, like a boat tour on the coast. That was like the first day that we did. It was about $200 each. It was so worth it. It was actually one of the best days of our lives. You can see it in my Amalfi vlog if you want. Amalfi was the most expensive place that I went to. I would spend like $50 on a meal. The drinks were expensive, so just be prepared for that. Once we were done in Amalfi, I was trying to research how to get back to the airport for so long. We ended up speaking to our hotel owner, and he was like, listen girls, just get a taxi to the airport. A taxi is gonna cost you 150 euros. There are no buses because we needed to go at like 9 AM. There was nothing, so we had to spend 150 euros, which is like $300, to go back to the airport, which was fine. We just did it. You kind of have to bite the bullet with that stuff. Just be prepared if you're gonna go to Amalfi. Saying that, I would absolutely go to Amalfi again. From Amalfi I flew to Spain. While I was booking the flight to Spain, to Alicante, I actually saw that you had to do a stopover somewhere. A lot of these stopovers were for like a night or more, so I actually ended up adding Amsterdam to my itinerary unexpectedly, but I'm so glad I did. We went from Naples airport to Amsterdam as a layover, and then from Amsterdam to Alicante. So that flight total was $600 for me, and then accommodation 1 night in Amsterdam for me and Soph was $215. She joined me in Amsterdam and then went home from Amsterdam back to London. But yeah, that was really cool. I didn't expect much from Amsterdam. It's never really like appealed to me, but it was amazing. It was so good. I want to go back there so badly now, especially because it was so different from everywhere that I had been before, like Spain and France and everything. So actually look out for any layovers when you're flying within Europe. So then we spent a night in Amsterdam, and then I went to Alicante because I've got a friend that lived there, so I met up with my girlfriends and we stayed in Alicante. I'm not sure how much we paid for the accommodation there because my friend actually booked it and I just paid her ages ago. I stayed there for 2 nights, and then we went to Barcelona. So there was 5 of us in Alicante, and then 4 of us went to Barcelona. And we stayed in Barcelona from the 11th to the 15th of August, so 4 nights. Total it was 1,166, so just divided that by 4, so it was about 300 each, just less than, which was great. I loved Barcelona. There's lots of things to do there. There's great shopping, great, you know, great museums, great shops and things like that. At this point I hadn't booked my flight from Barcelona back to London. Price was going up and up, and it ended up being cheaper for me to go back and do a couple nights in Paris, so that's what I did. So when my friends left back to New Zealand from Barcelona, I took a bus up to Paris, and it ended up being cheaper, including accommodation, than just flying straight back to London. I did one extra night actually, sorry, just 1 night. It cost 158 for accommodation. I stayed in the same place that we went to when I went with Soph, so that was good because I kind of knew where it was. I knew how to get there, and I wanted to go back just because I loved it so much, so I'm glad I went back. And then I took the bus back to London. That was a lot. It was long. I was just trying to do it as cheap as I possibly could at this point. I probably should have just gone home, because on the bus I actually got extremely sick. I think just the 2 months of traveling finally caught up to me. So when I got back to London I just crashed. Probably like a week I got really sick. So I think as well it is important to have rest days when you need rest days. Keep looking after yourself throughout the trip. Sometimes you don't even notice how run down you are, so definitely check in with yourself every once in a while. Yeah, and that was pretty much my Europe trip. I hope I've covered a lot and given you guys helpful information relating to costs and things like that, but if you do have any more questions, please just drop them in the comments and I will answer them straight away. I just wanted to go over my awards. I thought that'd be a fun little way to end this video. My biggest lessons or key takeaways were Always check your hotel room. Spend money on experiences, not things. And always show up earlier than you think for everything. Flights, trains, buses, everything. My favorite places that I went, probably Paris and Rome. I loved everywhere I went. There was not a single place where I felt unsafe or wanted to leave early or anything like that. I think I was so lucky in that regard. Place I want to go back to the most, probably Amsterdam or Florence. Those two places really unexpectedly impressed me. Best meals. Unsurprisingly, my two best meals that I had were both in Italy. The first one was a spaghetti carbonara that I got in Florence at Trattoria Zaza. Best spaghetti carbonara I've ever had in my life. And if you know me, you know that spaghetti carbonara is my meal that I get everywhere. So I've had my fair share of spaghetti carbonaras. That was the best I've ever had in my life. And also, unexpectedly, my second best meal was in Naples. It was a pizza. It was €7. It was at this random pizza place that I found. It's called Ristorante Pizzeria Mare Luna in Naples. The best pizza I've ever had in my life. If you didn't know, Naples is the birthplace of pizza, so that kind of makes sense. Like one of the cheapest meals that I had there throughout my whole trip, and it was one of the best. But yeah, that is my Euro summer trip all ready now. And thank you so much for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe. Every single like and subscribe means so much to me. Every view means so much to me. I hope this video was fun and not too boring. But yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.